The moderator is Ravi Deecee. Ravi Deecee is the publisher and managing partner of Deecee Books, the first in the book industry in India to get ISO certificate and one of the top 5 literary books publishing houses in India and the leading book publisher in Malayalam. He is the son of late Sri Deecee Kirekemuri, social activist, writer, publisher, and freedom fighter. He found Kerala Literature Festival, one of the largest literature festival in Asia. I hereby welcome Anand Kanitkar, Dr. Beena Philip, and Ravi Deecee onto the stage.
Good morning to you all. And this session, English Lord switchy because we have Anand from UNESCO. So the session will be in English. Let me welcome Beena teacher to her own city and Anand to the session. And Anand has come all the way from New Delhi for this session particularly. And the session is called The Art of Citymaking, UNESCO's Creative Cities. I'll just give a 2-minute introduction and just move on. Since we have only 30 minutes, I will not speak for long. It's so great that, the first city to be the city of literature is Calicut, actually. I mean, there are quite a few cities, actually, who could claim the legacy, but there's nothing like Calicut. I mean, Calicut did it the best, actually. It documented and it has mapped all the things, what's happening, what had happened earlier, including the kind of library movement, the local library, LLA formats, the kind of writers who have found Calicut as an abode. I mean, they probably are from different parts of Kerala, but they have finally decided to reside in Calicut and write because they thought that has the most conducive atmosphere for a cultural society, how a cultural society should be. That's what Calicut is all about. And I will not speak for long, actually. I mean, I'll start with Beena teacher. Beena teacher, can you tell us what prompted you to actually apply for City of Literature? And I'm sure that has been a lengthy process and you have been on it for almost a year or more, actually. So can you explain in about a few minutes?
Dear Anand, I'm going to say a few words about why and how we started. So the rest of it you can explain, right? So, when I heard UNESCO's Creative Cities concept, Dr. Ajit Kaliat, Professor of Urban Chair, Kila, he contacted me and asked me, why not Calicut become a Calicut apply for UNESCO Creative City of Literature? You have KLF there. And then I told, not only KLF, there are so many other factors. So in one word, I can say, my strong belief, my strong trust in this city, Calicut, that it deserves such a status. That is a conviction that I had when I talked to Dr. Ajit. I told him that that day, Madhurumi was about to think of celebrating its centenary because they started in 19, I don't remember exactly, 23, I believe. So in 2023, they were about to celebrate the centenary. So I told them exclusively for the purpose of independent struggle, supporting independent struggle, Madhurumi was established in Calicut. Then came the Deshabhimani for the next step of the movement, advanced progress, that is the Deshabhimani. Chandrika started in another place, but soon after establishing there, it moved to Calicut. And the mixed culture, the kind of world travelers who visited even the BCs. So long before Christ was born, or long before the Europeans came down to the city, there was very active trade and commerce. There were trade routes, there were silk routes, there were people from China, people from Persia, people from the eastern part of Africa. They were all here. Even in the Bible it is mentioned, during King Solomon's time, there were people who were trading with this small place called Kerala. And this Malanadu, or rather the Kodikote, Kodi means a place of mud and water. നമ്മുടെ പുഞ്ച 3 നേരം കൊല്ലം കൃഷി ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്ന സ്ഥലം. So that and mud and cultivable land. Kotai means Pattanam, Nagaram, city. So that is Kozhikode or Kodikotai, where people used to come from all over the world, except Europeans. They couldn't come because they did not know where India was. And you know the history of Columbus, where he went and he thought it was India. So the name of India was famous, popular, and they all came here searching for spices, which was necessary those days to keep their meat and fish dried and keep it for a long time. There were no preservatives those days, neither there was electricity or fridges. That's one history, and we had Silk Route. So that is the reason why we have a mixed culture of the whole world, and from different parts of India, people come down to Kozhikode and they settled here. That is the most attractive thing. And we were interested. The German missionaries who came here, and they had their own singing songs, their classical songs. They used to sing it in the heart of the city. There was a church where every day they were playing the organ and they were singing their German classical musics. So Western music as well as Eastern music it became the normal routine of a person in Kozhikode. Without knowing the language, he learned how to enjoy music, how to enjoy literature, how to take part in small skits and one-act plays and long plays. And they all enjoyed. I don't know, Anand, we had a movie house playing only English movies, and the trolley walas, those who were pulling the trolley, they used to come there to enjoy English movies. Only English movies are played, and they used to discuss what they saw. What does it mean? Everybody on this land, whether rich or poor, they thought they had their own self-dignity. Anand is going to speak to you about why there are creative cities and what is the ultimate purpose of such cities in the 21st century. It started in the 21st century. Am I right? Yes. So why people started all over the world, why United Nations started thinking of creative cities, and what are the ultimate profit or ultimate aim objectives of the creative cities. He will explain it more. And that is the reason, dear Ravi, I had trust in Kozhikode. I strongly believed that Kozhikode, of all the cities that I know and have read of, Kozhikode deserves this status of UNESCO, that is City of Literature. Thank you.
It's very true. I'll just hand over the microphone to Anand. Before that, I'll just say a few words. Yesterday, I was with the French delegation. So some couple of my friends who are laymen from the region, so they were standing with, we were discussing something that the French delegates came actually. Then I said, this is so and so, this is Nasser, and I introduced. Then they said, I've told them, we know the French literature and all. Then I was talking about Sartre and all. Then finally I said, the one book you should read is The Second Sex by Simon de Beauvoir. That's on the gender, that's the first thing. And then the next thing is actually the people staying, the people from Kozhikode saying that, Sartre's girlfriend or living together was Simon de Beauvoir. So, they were amazed at the kind of knowledge the layman has here about the French literature, the philosopher and all. So it truly deserves the tag, City of Literature. And to Anand, UNESCO has started this Creative Cities tag only very recently, actually. Only a few years, And I'm so glad that Calicut has got the tag, actually. So can you tell us more about, how do you sustain this tag, actually? What are the kind of activities? And what is a capital, book capital, and all these actually involved with that?
Thank you very much, Raviji, and Honorable Mayor Beena ma'am. UNESCO and me personally, I'm honored to be here, and we are pleased that we are invited to talk and take part in this Kerala Literature Festival's 8th edition. We have heard about it, and today I'm seeing it, how people are enthusiastically participating in various activities. UNESCO is well known or widely known for its World Heritage sites and World Heritage status. People know that there are monuments like the Chola temples or Taj Mahal and Qutub Minar, Ajanta Ellora caves are the World Heritage sites in India. That started in 1972, where UNESCO started promoting and safeguarding these kind of uh, heritage sites. Then came the state in 2003, where UNESCO realized that not only this built heritage is important, but our living heritage, our cultural heritage, which are our rituals, our daily practices, our food practices are important. So that's where UNESCO started recognizing through a list of intangible cultural heritage or living heritage. And in 2004, UNESCO started this program called UCCN, UNESCO Creative Cities Network, because cities, we look at it as the urban development and urban infrastructure, and we think that the heritage is the monument, heritage is the culture, but cities have this creativity, the creativity of design, creativity of literature, creativity of gastronomy, the folk art, etc. So UNESCO came up with this program, UNESCO Creative Cities Network, with 7 different themes. So the cities can nominate themselves under 7 different themes. Like Hyderabad is a city for gastronomy, or Varanasi is UNESCO Creative City for music. And the same way, as we are in Kozhikode, Kozhikode is India's first creative city for literature. And in 2023, Kozhikode got this status. So what is expected in this particular network is that the city administration and the cities especially take all the stakeholders into consideration, and with that particular aspect of creativity, may it be literature, may it be folk art or design, or crafts, leverage that particular aspect, in this case literature, for the city development, for the urban development. How literature can be used towards city development, or how literature can be imbibed in city development. That is something important aspect. It also promotes the intercity cooperation within India, or on the other, with the other cities, creative cities. But it also encourages to have international cooperation. Like this festival is happening, and France is guest of honor, where Kozhikode now will be known in France also, that France was invited here. So that sort of cooperation is required, and also how cities can learn from each other. So, like for example, France has a city called Lyon, which is a literature city, or Edinburgh is a city for literature. So these exchanges allow cities to understand how each other can learn from their best practices. What are they doing for the writers? What are they doing for promoting reading culture? How the public spaces can be used to promote reading practices? What are the incentives which can be given to the stakeholders? Like when we say literature, there are various stakeholders, not only the readers, but shops or online booksellers or publishers, designers who design the book, and book covers. So all these are stakeholders. What can be done to nurture their creativity, to nurture that creative economy, and to imbibe that, to leverage that for the city development. So these are the some of the basic ideas behind giving this status, where the cities have to first show what they are doing in that particular theme. In case of Kozhikode, it's the literature, and what are the action plans they would like to implement. So it is not that you get the status once and you keep it like World Heritage. The cities and the stakeholders need to work towards keeping that status, to grow towards that status, because many a times it happens that this is a World Heritage site or this is intangible heritage, and then we look at that status as a tag, we use it everywhere, and that tag remains for 20 years. but actually if you see, nothing is happening in that particular sector of craft or design or gastronomy. It goes on organically. So the cities or the city administration could actually create action plans, keep certain budget aside, develop cities accordingly, which will nurture the literary scene of your city, and also look at the international cooperations or organize international forums where you can invite other cities also, and probably look towards another World Book Capital status, which is another UNESCO program where World Book Capital was introduced in, if I'm not mistaken, 2001. And the cities apply for that. There is a application process, there is a selection process. UNESCO headquarter has a committee for that, which selects, looking at how the city is going to work towards promoting its literature and infrastructure for literature, and nurturing the creative economy in that particular sector. So I would say that by working towards these goals, Kozhikode can definitely, aim at becoming probably the world book capital one day and apply for that also.
Thank you, Anand. Anand has mentioned about the creative economy. The India's per capita or India's percentage of the spending, actually, it's a single digit for creative economy. And the Indian government expects that to be around 13 to 15% in the next few years. So, I mean, so the creative economy, it really has a kind of value addition to the economy as well. I mean, for example, for KLF here or any other events happening in the creative area, I mean, at least a KLF can bring in about 100 crores to the thing over the 4 days into the city of Kozhikode, actually, because the thousands of people or tens of thousands of people coming. So it's what happening. So when I talked to Beena teacher a few times and I shared some of the details with her, she already has all these with her. I mean, I've shared her photos of the Ho Chi Minh City. So she's quite aware of what's happening across. So my question to you is actually, I know you know all these actually, the book street is important, the amphitheaters across, the urban spaces are important for all that actually, and to nurture, including the design element and other things. How can you make it happen in this, what do you call it, the government or the bureaucratic? I mean, it's not easy to do that actually. You need an office, you need to have a plan, long-term plan. Can you explain more about that actually?
Ravi actually put me in trouble and asked me how I can convince the politicians that these are the kind of things that we have to do. Apart from the concept of development is like big roads and high-rise buildings. That is our concept of development. And I thought Anand would say that because by giving this designation, UNESCO intends to prevent the cultural decaying of the cities. Samskarika apachayam namakku varunnuണ്ട്. So that is to be curbed, to be, it is to be decelerated, because the kind of progress, in quotation, that we see all around us is not for the people, not for the world, in fact. For example, in Kozhikode, we have enough number of high-rise building flats. Only 50% is occupied. What about the rest of the place? So when they hear that in the heart of the city, if there is a half an acre or 1 acre of land for the corporation, they come forward with the offers, like they will build something like, we have to keep 15% of the land as open space for the survival of this city. Unfortunately, Kozhikode Corporation has only 1% of open space. For whose development do we intend? In Calicut, I'm sure I can say that we always, for the past 50 years, a party that considered those who suffer a compassionate attitude. So our development was all on the basis of compassion. ഭൂതദയോട് കൂടി എല്ലാവരെയും ചേർത്ത് പിടിക്കുന്ന ഒരു attitude നമുക്കുണ്ടാവണം. But of late, I've been watching that people are misled. Like big trailers in the movies. നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത് ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് കാണുന്നത് എന്താ? ഭയങ്കര വലിയ റോഡുകളും ബിൽഡിങ്ങും ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് സിനിമയുടെ പോലെ ജും ജും എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടുള്ള ഓരോ കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെയാണ് നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത്. ദാറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ്. ഫോർ ഹൂസ് സേക്ക് ഡു വി ഡെവലപ്പ്? ഷുഡ് വി ഡെവലപ്പ്? That is the basic question. So I think that's the same question, but in different terms. UNESCO want all the creative cities to be humane cities, to make sure that there is equality and equity and compassion. Just see, and they say inclusiveness. That's why I welcomed Special Olympics. More than 4,000 participants were there. You know what Special Olympics is. Kozhikode invited that Special Olympics to Kozhikode because we are a city of literature. So we want to know as Karunayude Nagaram. So like we have started a separate program for the old aged ones and for the palliative care patients, and for those who are on the bedridden people, and for the extremely poor people. So fortunately, in a population of nearly 7 lakh people, we have only 864 families who are extremely poor, and we have reduced it to nearly 400. That's what we have been doing. So this is compassion. This is development of a city. If all the city dwellers are moving to the outskirts of the city, this city will not have a culture. I can tell you, because people should have the roots in this city. Ayaram and Gayaram cannot make a city a cultural city. Only people of Kozhikode who are living here, who have separate properties, who have small houses, but they do have a neighborhood cooperation like we call Ayalvakabedi or resident associations. In a flat, people do not know what's happening down. They don't even walk. Only for the walkways they walk, not around their flat or around the place where they have raised their flats. So like that, the definition of the progress of a city is to be changed. That's exactly what they asked through Monte Cult Declaration and Braga Manifesto. We declare that we will see that there is equity, there is fairness, there is inclusiveness, and of all things there will be freedom for people, liberty for people. So you're going to say more about that.
Anand,
It is
you
Ravi.
want to-
Ravi is
yeah.
the moderator.
My request, yeah.
I mean, we say openly, we say creative economy or creative bureaucracy, whatever, but the underlying principle is not that. The cultural decay, how to prevent the cultural decay of the city? Because the city defines the nation, right? So if cities become more humane, more equity-based, and more compassion, that becomes the nation, right?
So, I mean, when I mentioned that it's leveraging the city's creativity, it is exactly that you are working towards safeguarding that creativity, whichever creativity is. And since we are talking about Creative Cities Network, it is true, but UNESCO also promotes the cities to leverage its all sorts of heritage, may it be museums or dance performances or literature or craft or creative, other creative sectors, and use it for tomorrow's city. That when we think about this uncontrolled development, instead of uncontrolled development, there should be this consideration of how we would like to have our tomorrow's city, as ma'am said. And it is for everyone, every group of the society, every marginalized group of the society, or even, as madam said, that the poors or the palliative care, etc. So how this can be given, keeping the sustainability of the city and of the society into consideration, and not losing its cultural fabric. That is very important, because nowadays when we look at, as ma'am said, when we look at the old cities, and the idea is to bring down the old houses and build new constructions out of concrete, etc., and that's where the cities start losing their original cultural fabric and charm, which we call the old area of the city. So old area of the city is also important, but this creative aspect is also important, that how the creative people, the stakeholders are getting, the how system is supporting them. That is also important, because if the system is not supporting all the stakeholders, some of them might lose their jobs. Like in terms of digitization, since we are talking about literature, that this whole digital and online book, and with using the graphics design and everything, things are changing in publication also. So that affects different jobs. So that also has to be taken into consideration.
Thank you, Anand. We got 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes for Q&A actually. If anybody has the questions or actually,
Hello, my name is Prachi Joshi. My question is, how are international cities of literature how are they maintaining this status? What are some examples that you can share that Kohikode can also imbibe to maintain the status?
So basically, once the status is given, it is for lifelong. The cities are expected to give certain action plan and work towards it. So like the city of Edinburgh, which organizes festival but also nurtures the reading practices, because you need to have those many libraries or reading areas, or making available the open public libraries probably, or the using public spaces for this kind of promoting the literature. So it is different aspects of the city of Angoulême, which is a city of literature, but more as a caricature. So they organize caricature festival, where different caricaturists come, and the festival is happening on the international scale. But also at the city level, at the private and public, both sectors, they promote the literature and the reading habits, basically making it available for all age groups, because otherwise we are targeting only those are interested into reading. But how you can increase, which is the reading habits we are losing nowadays because of online reels and all the social media. So that needs to be nurtured again in the younger generation, especially in the schools, etc. So cities are taking efforts towards that also. So the status, and they have to submit the report every after certain period. They have to submit the report of what they are doing towards that action plan which they have provided. Mainly, it is towards the making available the infrastructure for more and more libraries and reading places, and nurturing the reading habits, I would say.
thank you. Thank you, Anand. We are running short of time. We can take the other questions offline. But in the meanwhile, I can tell you that we had many events, many cultural events, including there's the earlier literature festival in the model of KLF itself, Hortus, and now KLF by Deecee Community Foundation. So all of it actually, the kind of enthusiasm generated to procure books or read it actually. I mean, I can say one thing. The last January to June, Deecee Books has been the number fifth publisher in India for few reasons. I can tell you, 7 or 8 books actually just got out of exponential and sold like lakhs of copies. So these all happened because the literature festival triggered it. I'm not talking about this alone. It could be the reason with the Kai in Madhrumi or Hortus here or the Wayanad Lit Fest or others actually. So it all triggers the kind of reading habits, the need for dialogues, everything happens with that. And thank you, Anand, for taking all the effort. He's coming from Delhi for this session, and Beena teacher is in the hem of things always with the City of Literature. Thank you both actually for being there.